like a couple $100 a month on. That's one exit. Or a homestead if you wanted to live on it in it. That's another exit. But the best exit, which our buyers are going to do, is a wrap, where basically, they're taking the payments over subject to at 5.75% interest. Then they'll probably wrap it to an end buyer close to 7, which allows for like a $400 a month spread there. And then if they sell it at like 360, which I think they will, there will probably be about 20 to 30K equity in the note. And then also too, another thing is the down payment, right? Since their entry fee so low, if they're getting this house for $12,000 plus closing costs, they're getting this house for like 15K. That means a wrap buyer would have to come down with like a 5% down payment, roughly around there, maybe a little higher, 5 to 7% down payment for the buyer to get, the person we're assigning to, that buyer, not the wrap buyer, to get some money in their pocket. So if they're paying us, 12K plus closing costs, they're in at 15K. They have 1 month of holding, so they're like 17. If they get a 20K down payment from a wrap buyer, which shouldn't be too hard to find because that's less than a 10% down payment, then they make like 3 or 4K right off the bat. And then now they have the note that they're making 400 a month off of, and then they have like 20 to 30K equity on the note as well on the wrap. So it's a good deal, man, with that low of an entry. I mean, I told you, Chris, because I didn't want to get your hopes up with it too much. Because I was like, I'm not 100% sure. I'm like 50-50 on it. Or I said a little higher than 50-50, like 60-40. But with such a low entry fee, I also thought like, damn, this has got to move quick. And it seemed like it. I mean, it did. We got someone to sign within 24 hours, assignment agreement. And there's also people on the back burner that like it too and are waiting. So if these guys don't send in earnest money on Monday, there's backup people as well. And then also 2 other things just to mention. There was some minor foundation issues with the house, but the seller has warranty to cover those foundation issues. And we have an amendment signed on the contract that basically states, or I texted the agent, haven't heard back yet to see if the seller signed it, but the agent drafted up an amendment stating, and he verbally said this, that seller will take care of foundation work with his warranty before close escrow. And then the seller apparently didn't know you still have to make mortgage payments on your house when it's on market. So he missed like 2 payments, and basically the seller's coming out of pocket to catch up the payments as well too. So he has like 9K payments to catch up on. So that's an amendment too that he signed. So he has to do that and the foundation work before close escrow, which sounds like the seller has some money though. He's not in a super distressed scenario, where the agent said he'll be able to do that. So we got that amendment signed too. So hopefully he performs on that.
How long did you guys agree for closing?
Usually a 30-day close. So what is that? So whenever we got it locked up, I think we got it locked up like 4 days or early this week, I think Monday or Tuesday. Or wait, something like that. Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
3 days ago or something.
So I think it was like November 27th or something. Yeah.
October.
No, I think our closing date was November 27th.
Oh, I thought you were talking about when he signed.
Yeah. Our closing was, I think, November 20 something. Yeah. Which might have to get pushed back if that foundation work doesn't get done by then. It could be quicker, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's a lot of audio. Just muting a bunch of people, sorry.
Guys, I'm driving right now. I can't really see the screen. What state was this in?
This was in Texas, just outside of Waco. Lorena was the city name.
And Jack, just
Yeah.
go on the map real quick of Zillow. And honestly, when I first saw this, I was kind of fearful just based off the location. But when you look at it on a bigger map, scroll out a little more. So you're already in a smaller Texas city. And so people aren't looking to be in a major city already. So the fact that they're living in Waco, this is probably like a perfect home for someone in Waco.
Yeah. And Waco's cool, man. I've wholesaled probably like 5 deals in Waco. Those were cash deals though. So I know Waco. Well, never been to Waco, but I'm kind of familiar with Waco, like the good and bad parts. But yeah, I mean, this house is 10 miles away from Baylor University, which is a big school. I don't think any Baylor students would live this far out of Waco though and make like a 20-minute drive and be in the outskirts of town. So I think it's definitely a good wrap though. Like Joe was saying when we were talking to Joe, like there's people that may not be able to get traditional financing and don't want to be in the major, like into the city. Some people want that acre of land just 15 minutes outside of the major city, you know? So I think it's a good buy for these guys too.
Oh yeah.
The only thing is though, if they can't find someone quick, then they have that expensive $2,600 a month holding cost, which I wouldn't want to be stuck with right now. That's for sure. Maybe if it was like in Waco, a little cheaper home price, because that's higher than the median. That's probably 100,000 higher than the median home price in Waco, 360. So my question is, it shouldn't be too hard to find a buyer with a low down payment, but that would be my only concern with that.
Yeah. And I think we got a pretty good purchase price as well.
Oh, we did. There's equity in there for sure. Maybe like 20, 30K. And did you want to, I forgot, someone was about to say something. I forgot. Two people had their mics unmuted. I don't know if they had questions or if they're about to say something, or if you wanted to touch on something, Alex. Because I know you said.
Excuse me, Jack, this is Nancy. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
So when you buy, it's already have equity. You said 20, 30 equity?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not
So
all.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So you you got a comps from Zeno or somewhere else?
Yeah. So we got the comps from PropStream on this one. This one was a little more difficult in terms of comping, just because this one's on the outskirts of town and it's slightly larger. And that was one of the holdups Alex and I had with this too, is there wasn't a lot of comps available. So if I pull up here, if I go to comparables and
Upstream, right?
yeah, this is PropStream here.
Mhm.
So even if I do, oh, no, it's too far. So if I do a 1 mile radius in the last year,
Mhm.
there's nothing, there's one comp in the last year in a 1 mile radius.
Mhm.
And that's just based off the square footage. That's not the exact bed and bath count. And then a 2 mile radius in the last year, there's 3 comps. So that's really terrible. So it was kind of just more of a
Yeah.
kind of not, I wouldn't say a guess, but like an estimation. Like with some of these, we can get an exact ARV or as is value. If there's a lot of comps and it's in a neighborhood, it's easy to do that. But this one was like an estimate of, okay, this is probably worth right around like 350 to 360. And pretty much here, like the purchase price is 336 because that's the outstanding balance on the mortgage is 324K. And then basically the purchase price is the mortgage balance plus the fees that buyer would be paying. So the 336 is including our assignment, agent commission, cash to seller.
Okay.
Yeah. So then technically they have like 20 to 25K of equity there if we're saying the house is worth 355, 360.
So
Earthquake, Rumbles, California. Where's this at?
Sorry, what was that? Was that Cynthia? Or someone just said something.
Yeah, so this is in Texas. I think she's breaking up, but this
Gotcha.
is in Texas.
Yeah, this is in Lorena, Texas. I'd never heard of Lorena, even though I've done deals in Waco, and it's just right outside of Waco, 10 miles outside of Waco. For some reason, it looks farther, but
yeah, this is off topic, but I just want to say something like somebody approached me with a wrap deal, asked me to capital investment. It's already the price they purchased that it's already like 10%, more than 10%. So it's a 285 market price, and they pay 336. I said,
yeah,
you know, right there, you're already 50 grand underwater, and you're expecting people to pay you more.
yeah, that's
And
crazy.
And the interest is already 5.75. So
Yeah,
that's
the only time something like that could work if someone, because I mean, on a lot of wrap deals, you can market it 10% above market value. So if something was worth 300, you could probably find a wrap buyer at 330. But something that's significantly higher probably won't happen unless I tell someone, hey, your down payment's $5,000 and here's a 4% interest rate. Then someone might do it, not even think about it, and then whatever, then just get foreclosed on. Because if they decide to move or sell or something, the house isn't appraising or worth nearly what they bought it for or agreed to buy it for with the terms, then they would just get foreclosed on because since they wouldn't be able to perform. Yeah, but some people will take that risk if it's literally a $5,000 down payment and a low interest rate. But that wouldn't make any sense for anyone to buy or an investor to buy to then try to wrap it to someone else.
Yeah, nobody will buy at that price because they have to pay. I calculated based on the projection. That's like 40% above market price at 8%. They said 8.5%. I said, who would do that? Nobody will buy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point though. Thanks for bringing that up because that helps kind of narrow it down to in terms of what people would actually pay on these wraps and what would make sense in terms of what's a good deal and what's not a good deal.
But this deal is a much better deal. What do you have? You just explained. It's a much better.
Yeah, the low entry is super good with this one.
And Jack, do you want to kind of go into detail of maybe like a example of what we could sell it on a wrap and just kind of holding costs and show people that breakdown? Because
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, let me stop screen share and pull that form up really quick. Yeah, just give me like, I don't know if you want to touch on something for like a minute or two, Alex, because I just have to add in the numbers here from something else into the sheet. I don't know, or we just wait for a minute while I do that.
no,
Or actually, I could share it. I guess I could just share it, adding the numbers into the sheet. I'll just do that.
yeah, and then it'll help explain people
Yeah, let's see here.
by putting what numbers were.
Okay. I use the old one, Alex, the old crappy one we don't use anymore for this stuff, just so it doesn't mess with because it's the same function, you know, it's just the LOI generation's different. So the underlying mortgage, would you mind reading these numbers off to me though, Alex?
I got it.
I think the underlying mortgage was 324. Doesn't need to be exact. Estimate. It was listed at, I think it was 359. We'll just say 360. Closing costs usually about 1%, so we can leave that there.
Wait, so what number do you want me to start with?
Let's see here. So I would just need the PI. One sec. Let me delete this. So yeah, what's the loan amount? 324, right?
706.
324 what?
706.
Okay.
0.87.
0.87, and then interest rate was 5.85 or 75?
75.
5.75. PI.
Let me also make sure to add the percent where it says the interest rate. I think that changes it. 1917.92.
1917.92. And then TI, the taxes and insurance, the escrow. I'm guessing that's
702.
702. 95. Okay. And for everyone watching this is just the breakdown of what the payment's going to look like. Taxes and insurance, aka the escrow, that's going to be $700. And then the principal and interest is $1,900. And pretty much the main thing you're focusing on though. So the taxes and insurance is important because that's what the wrap buyer, that's going to be involved in their monthly payment. But all we really care about as an investor in terms of how much money we're going to make is the PI, the principal and interest, because when you're doing like a mortgage amortization calculator, you're looking at the spread between the principal and interest and the principal and interest. So meaning if I have that 324K sub 2 balance or mortgage balance I'm making payments on that I took over sub 2, I'm looking at the P&I on that. And then when I wrap it to someone, let's say I wrap it for 360. yeah, say I wrap it for 360, I get 20K down. Let me delete this stuff here.
Which is low for amount of money down.
It is, yeah.
A little more than 5%, but
So I would have to do, and the other thing to consider too here is like when a deal has equity in a wrap, meaning like that first note we're taking over sub 2, that one had a 324K mortgage balance, right? So this one here, I'm selling it for 360. They give a 20K down, and when they give a 20K down, then I'm left with 340 on my note. So technically I have about 20K in equity in between the notes. So of course, let's say if I match the interest rate exactly. So say I wanted to do what was it? It was 5.75. If I match the interest rates exactly, I'm still going to make money on this deal just because this balance is slightly larger than the other. So I would make $66. Which actually that's more than I thought. Just with the 20K difference. So you'd make $66 a month if you match that interest exactly. But ideally someone would probably sell this at 7% interest, 7 to 8. So with a 7, you'd be making 344. And with an 8, you'd be making almost 600. But the thing to consider is affordability, right? So when it comes to affordability, what was the TI again? The taxes and insurance, that was 702. So this won't be accurate, but we'll just say, huh?
You need to fill in one more section. I believe
Which one?
the terms left, it should be 348. Scroll up a little where it says
Oh shit. Yeah. Good
the reason
call.
it's 348 is because this one was purchased a year ago.
Good call. Good call.
It might be a little different, but
Yeah.
subtracted a year.
Yep. Yeah. And that's important. Yeah, that's important. That's important. Yeah. But honestly, I forgot to do that on a lot of these. The reason being is that's important if it's amortized, which it is amortized over 30 years, but probably 99.9% of the time, maybe not that high, maybe 95% of the time, this wrap won't amortize for 30 years just because most people have told me it's usually like 7 to 10 years until someone moves or refis. And when they move or refi, when they sell the house or refinance, they're paying me off first. So they have to pay off that note they have with me, which allows me to make some money. Well, I'm making, of course, monthly income on the wrap, but then also like the equity spread there. So say when they pay it off, we're paying off that 324 and then they're paying us 340. So I have like just under 20K in my pocket there. But in terms of affordability then, so this is the big thing to consider. So if we're wrapping this as an 8% interest rate, now when we add taxes and insurance, that total monthly payment there is almost $3,200. So how many people can afford that $3,200 a month payment? That's a big question, which that's going to be less people than those that could afford a $2,700 a month payment, right? But of course, if I'm at $2,700 a month, now my monthly cash flow is only $120 a month. Whereas if I did that 8%, my cash flow would be like 3-4 times that amount. So that's the trade-off. But at the same time, if I'm looking for that much cash flow, I might be holding the property for 3 to 4 months to find that buyer. So it's really just going to vary in terms of what that investor wants to do. And basically, the other thing too to consider would be, I guess we'll include our assignment fee on here too. And then let's say 2 months of holding costs. I think it was like 2620, something like that, whatever. So pretty much like that, if they had 2 months of holding costs, whoever buys this deal from us, the person buying this deal from us, they're all in out of pocket, including 2 months of holding costs, like 16 grand. So if they came and marketed it and found someone to put a 20K down payment, then they're making about 4 grand in their pocket instantly.
Make
and
it
then
10%. Make it 10% down with a 7% interest rate.
got you. So then they're making it. I don't think they're going to do that personally, but just for example,
Yeah, I mean most down payments you're collecting are
our 10%. Yeah, our 10%.
8 and 12.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it depends on the price of the house too. Like this one where it's 360, it's going to be harder for you to get like 10% plus down. Whereas like if this was a home $110,000 home, that's where you see a lot of people like asking for closer to 20% down. Just because it's a cheaper purchase price.
Yeah.
So, and then you said 7%. So then what that looks like would be 237. Okay, so that's one thing to consider here, which you have to be careful for with the wrap. So if they got 36K down and sold it at 360K, now their principal balance is 324,000, which is going to be less than the mortgage on the sub 2. So we don't want that, because technically it doesn't really matter as long as you keep like a war chest or money set aside. But say, for example, they sell or refi and they owe me 324K. And then the original sub 2 mortgage balance that we took over sub 2, in this example, it would be about the same, but say I owed that mortgage had 330 on it, and now there's a 6K loss that I'd have to come out of pocket on when they refi or sell. So to avoid that from happening, like I would probably do, instead of 36K down, I do like 30K down. So I have at least like a little 6K cushion there where I can make some money when that happens too. But even if I got a 30K down payment from them, I'm making almost $14,000 on the front end. I'm making close to 14 grand when that buyer puts a down payment down. So I think this is actually a really solid deal, Alex, for the people that are buying it from us, actually.
Yeah.
You-
Go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, so do you guys put a prepayment penalty just in case, if a buyer and the buyer takes over and then he refinance from your 7%, maybe it gets to 6%, then of course they're gonna refinance. So do you do prepayment penalty?
Well, that's one of the things too. It depends what financial scenario they're in. Like if rates drop significantly, it would make sense for them to refinance. But at the same time, maybe they can't refinance because their credit's terrible and they're not in a good financial position. So it's going to vary. But in terms of the prepayment penalty stuff, there are going to be some kind of gray areas with that in terms of Dodd-Frank and like regulations and predatory lending and things like that. So you can have pretty outrageous prepayment penalties in the mix, but that doesn't mean they're going to be enforceable and not predatory. So you always want to go through an RMLO to make sure that that end buyer on the wrap doesn't mean we're checking their credit or anything like that. We're basically just looking at their income and verifying that we're not doing predatory lending, so we can't get sued or anything like that in the future. Because there's a story I know of someone who did close to 100 wraps without going through an RMLO. And essentially what happened with them is one person sued them saying it was predatory lending, and they had like a class action lawsuit. And I think they lost pretty much all close to 100 of those notes, AKA properties. So it's really important to not do anything predatory. And according to like Dodd-Frank and those laws,
Predatory. I'm sorry, what's a predatory lending?
predatory lending, meaning like predatory lending could be me selling a house on a wrapping a house and telling someone, okay, there's a balloon in 2 years, you owe me the $400,000 mortgage balance in 2 years. Where just like that example you brought up, Nancy, where you're like, this person was trying to wrap this house 40% more than what it's worth. That's predatory lending. If I did something like that, then I told someone in 5 years that they have to balloon out and pay me that balance. And then 5 years comes around, and of course the housing market isn't going to go up 50% in value. Who knows? Well, ideally it shouldn't. It goes up 50% of value in 5 years, and that person owes me a balloon. If any sort of attorney or someone else looked at that, they're going to say that's predatory. You knew you were going to foreclose on this person and they wouldn't be able to do that. That's a lawsuit. So basically an RMLO is going to make sure that no predatory lending is going to be done. So it's always important to go through them. So with prepayment penalties, there's some requirements that can be considered predatory with it. I know for your first and I'm trying to remember, I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's so we're not really doing prepayment penalties, but I think it's for your first 3 years, you can have like 2% of the purchase price as a prepayment penalty. So if the house is worth 300K, I could have a $6,000 prepayment penalty for the first 3 years. And then I think from year 3 to 10 or 3 to 5 or something like that, it then drops to 1%. So it's really just going to vary. And then I've heard other people say you can put whatever prepayment penalty you want on there, but if they take it to an attorney, that doesn't mean it's enforceable. So
even 2%, 1% is not enforceable.
That would be okay. That would be
Oh,
enforceable based on the Dodd-Frank regulations and laws that were passed. I don't know when those were passed. I think those were somewhat more recent. But like, me saying $30,000 prepayment penalty, that's something that really wouldn't probably be enforceable if they took that to court.
okay.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
yeah, shoot, I was gonna say something else. I forgot. Yeah, so that's just kind of a basic touch on those. Alex, was there something you wanted to mention or cover or that I missed with this deal specifically?
Not really, other than the fact that I believe that cash on cash is wrong and that
Yeah, the reason being is that cash on cash return calculator, it's correct when, so what it's designed for is basically, it's a negative essentially because out of pocket cash is showing negative 13,000. That's because I'm not out of pocket. It's almost like an infinite return because as soon as that wrap buyer comes in place, I got my investment back and some money. So this calculator it's all screwed up because I'm making 13 grand instantly. But let's say I only got, this is when the calculator is correct. Let's say I only got $5,000 as a down payment. That's when the calculator is correct because I still have $11,000 in the deal. And then my cash on cash return would be 47%. So anytime this out of pocket number is negative, that means I don't have money in the deal. I made money and it completely skews the cash on cash return number. But as long as this is positive, then the cash on cash number is correct. So, I mean, it's really an insane deal because let's say I got 10,000 down. Then it's a 78% cash on cash return. And then if I got 15,000 down, it's probably crazier. Yeah, it's almost a 400% cash on cash return.
and that's under market interest rates, and we bought with equity. So I mean, this
Yeah.
this deal is really, really good.
Yeah, it actually is
Can you
pretty
scroll up a little?
solid.
So do you wholesale the deal or you just do sell to?
This one we're wholesaling. Mainly more so kind of risk tolerance wise for Alex and I right now. Like we both have wraps where we're looking for buyers on right now, and we don't want to have a $2,600 a month payment to make if we can't find a buyer by some chance. The economy is kind of shaky right now too, so who knows what could happen. And then this kind of being on the outskirts, I still think it's a great buy, but for our risk tolerance right now, the down payment or the entry fee for us, if we wanted to keep this, shoot, we'd be all in, Alex, at freaking like 7 or 8 grand, which is amazing. But the $2,600 a month payment, that's just something we don't want on the back of our heads in terms of, okay, 2,600, 2,600, 2,600. And then now 4 months have gone by and then that's over $10,000 on a house that's in the outskirts of town with a 6% interest rate. So for me, it's not.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Go ahead.
So you don't want to do buy and hold neither for
No.
this?
Yeah, we'll buy and hold. It just wouldn't make sense for us on this one because we'd be losing over 300 a month. That's not accounting for capex, vacancy, maintenance, repairs, tenants not paying. So in reality, you'd probably be losing like 500 or 600 a month, factoring in capex on this deal as a rental. So I wouldn't want that.
And then just one other thing, Jack. I mean, for me and Jack, we kind of talked about it. I personally don't want anything that isn't going to be cash flowing as a long-term rental.
Yep, true.
And so this isn't one I don't think that was going to cash flow as a long-term rental. So the reason being is because I want to buy properties that I know no matter what the equity or the value of the home is, I know I can still make money on it, or that I'm at least going to be breaking even on it. And going to be able to just kind of hold on to it until that market readjusts.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Alex. Yeah. And I think there's going to be, and there's always exceptions with things like we've said before, it's never black and white. Like this one is kind of an exception. When you look at it, it bleeds heavily as a long-term rental. It's almost a 6% interest rate. It's kind of on the outskirts of town. And the exception on this one was us getting it for like a 3% entry fee. That's the exception as to why it's a really good deal. And then of course too, like that Houston deal, there's a deal Alex and I have in escrow right now in Houston, Texas, where actually someone in one of the Facebook groups, his mother was selling her home and said they were open to creative finance, and I got it locked up under contract. And that one, there's a lot of equity built in. The mortgage balance is 220 something K. We're paying them 20, well, not to go in super depth of the breakdown of it, but we're paying them around 25K cash to seller. So that's like 250K roughly that of debt, quote unquote debt within the deal between our entry fee and the mortgage. And then there's comps going for as is value of that house is like 320, 330. So you got
Just
like
over balance as well though, but
yeah, but that can be passed on. That's not like affecting the actual value of the house.
yeah.
So that would be like 70, 80K equity in the home. But it bleeds like probably 400 a month as a long-term rental. So Alex and we were banging our heads for like a week saying like, we're trying to get a funding partner for it. Worst case scenario, Alex and I would cover it if we had to, because we're past our inspection period. But then we decided that, hey, we're probably just going to assign this one. And it sounds like we had someone walk it today that wants it, that we're just going to assign it and make some money on, just because, like Alex was saying too, doesn't cash flow as a long-term rental, needs a little bit of repairs. And this one has a $2,500 a month mortgage payment. So it's totally cool if we're doing that and not doing it at volume. But say if Alex and I kept that one and business went bad for a month, or this happened with the economy, and then another one of our deals we can't find a buyer on, if you're bleeding $2,500 a month, 3 or 4 deals, that's a lot of money that you're losing monthly. So it's just being calculated. And of course too, like Alex said, we want to have that backup exit too, where it cash flows as a long-term rental. But that Houston one, I think, would be an exception though, Alex, where like, because we were thinking of keeping it ourselves just because there's over 70K equity in that deal and it's in Houston and it's a 3% interest rate. So like, and that's why we're doing these now on Saturdays, because originally we wanted to pick one topic and go over that each meeting. And then we realized if we're doing 2 meetings a week, I don't know, maybe we'd be teaching card tricks or something, because we'd run out of things to do in terms of topics. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that can be covered, but I think it's most valuable for everyone to see us looking at deals and the different perspectives with each deal. Because, for example, like that Houston one I just described, way different than this one. And then this one here, just from a naked eye at a quick glance, probably didn't look like a deal until we got the entry fee so low. And then now it's a really good deal. So I think Saturdays, like you guys bringing deals or leads you submitted or anything else you want other people to look at and us to go over, I think that'll be great. And then Tuesdays we're doing more of like the role play and cold calling practice, and then saving like 30 minutes of each meeting to go over maybe a specific topic. Then another thing that I wanted to mention too, that Alex and I are going to start doing, is cash deals and seller finance stuff. So, I mean, technically we already are pitching like hybrid deals, which is sub 2 mixed with seller finance if there's equity, but pretty soon we're going to be kind of pulling some lists specifically for targeting high equity, seller finance potential stuff. And then also too, I think we're going to be open to doing cash deals. And I kind of shied away from the cash deals previously just because I used to just do cash deals. It's a lot more hectic. The underwriting is slightly more difficult because you're looking at comps and estimating repairs, where sub 2, it's like, okay, I look at these quick numbers, nice interest rate at cash flows, easy to move. Whereas the cash deals, it's like, wait a second, this market, people are buying at 65% of ARV minus repairs. What's the rough repair estimate? Everyone's going to have a different opinion on that. And it's just more time consuming. But at the same time, as we build these relationships with agents and we get cash deals sent to us, we're basically kind of missing out on money, I believe, of us not focusing cash. So we're going to attempt to do that, and just trying to see, and we're JVing and partnering with some other people who do cash stuff, which will help us and make it easier. Yeah, so that's just one thing I wanted to mention. Alex and I are still figuring out how we want to incorporate that, but a great thing could be, like, as we're having all these conversations with agents, and of course, don't take my word on this right now in terms of like writing this down of exactly what we're saying, but if a sub 2 scenario doesn't work, well, hey, my partners and I actually buy a bunch of cash deals too, but we have to be, we're not buying something market value cash wise. We're investors. So if you know anyone who has distressed properties, or, something that needs some major fixer upper, we could totally purchase something like that. We'd be interested. If you could send me over any details on any cash deals you have, I'd be interested in that. Basically planting the seed like that, having the agent start sending cash deals. But at the same time, this is the problem where I've held off on it. then all of a sudden my inbox is flooded with BS, meaning like not saying it's people sending me deals, but agents will just say, oh, they're by cash. And then they're just sending us everything they see. Which if one person does that with 2 agents they speak with, that's 10 deals a week. And then if there's X amount of people doing this and speaking with agents, then that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deals a week that are getting sent to us, that probably maybe 1 out of all those is a deal actually. So it's just kind of figuring out how we want to do that, which is what we're working on still. Right, Alex? Do you think I explained that correctly, or was I talking out of my
I didn't catch all of it. One of the buyers had called me right now, but
Oh, my bad.
in terms of calling on or just telling agents that we're also buying cash is kind of what I caught.
Yeah, no, I was saying we definitely want to start doing that. Alex and I are just trying to decide how we want to go about that, though, because I was saying the issue with that, Alex, is if we have everyone who's calling and working with us telling agents to send us cash stuff, then we're going to have agents sending us BS, and then we're going to be getting hundreds and hundreds of emails. I don't know about a day, but pretty dang close as this builds out, of a bunch of crap. And then us sifting through a bunch of crap to find one deal is not time efficient. So I'm just thinking how we do that properly. Maybe, I mean, of course we could make those Loom videos like we did with the subject to creative finance stuff, where people could then kind of filter them out themselves before sending to us. I think we could totally do something like that. And like what we were talking about with Chris this morning, like kind of just getting a rough ballpark idea of what it's worth. So not everything's getting sent to us. First, someone goes to Zillow, Realtor, and PropStream if they have access, and then, you know, add those together, get the average, divide by or multiply by 0.6 for like 60% and see if that number's close. And then if it is, then they can submit to us. I think that's just a way to filter it out, but we could totally discuss that. But just wanted to mention that to people, that we will be doing some cash stuff here shortly.
Yeah, and if you are interested more in that cash, just shoot us a message. And still systems and processes we have to build out to make everyone's job easier. But that is something Jack and I are gonna do within the next month or so, have that built out so that creative is great. And cash is great. There's many different opportunities you could take in real estate, and so that's what's really cool about it. But we just kind of want to broaden our range and be able to help more people.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Because when you're speaking with these agents, if they shoot you down for the sub 2 stuff, totally fine. I buy cash as well, and then gets into that conversation. And then now that wasn't just of course, like speaking with an agent, hopefully they send you sub 2 stuff in the future. But if you're also mentioning the cash aspect too, and then getting both, then that's more opportunity there. It's just like Alex was saying, building out all those systems and processes, making sure it's gonna, you know, be efficient and work for everyone. So, and that's all I used to do. All I used to do was cash stuff for like 8 months. So I've done it well, not like tons, but a decent amount of cash deals. So I'm familiar with everything that needs to be done, which is why I've been hesitant on it. Cause I'm like, cash stuff's more work. Paper wise, cash stuff's easy in terms of the purchase contracts, all that stuff. It's really easy. Where the creative stuff, there's more components, but in terms of like the underwriting, finding buyers, the cash stuff's more difficult. Yeah. And then also the cash stuff direct to agent, I think it's good, like how I just described it, where if you're calling on a sub 2 deal, also pitching like, hey, we buy cash as well, maybe doing a little bit of cash offers too. But I think the cash stuff, if we weren't doing direct to agent, like if you guys were doing direct to seller, unless it was like for sale by owner, it would get discouraging if we're like skip tracing and pulling lists, because a lot of those are going to be like wrong phone numbers, not answered calls, no motivation there. So I think we definitely want to stick with like on market stuff, or at least stuff being sent to us by agents where we know there's motivation there.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we've been pushing on market low equity so hard on everyone. I know it's really tedious and it sucks to have an agent be like, you're the 8th person to call me, but unfortunately, I believe it was I forgot who it was last week, but they kind of made the idea more clear to me that there just isn't enough motivation if that's how they feel about it. So just a matter of obviously trying to build that connection with the agent, building trust, and once they feel comfortable with you, throw out your offer and kind of see how they react to it. And if they're open to it, there's got to be some motivation to it because it's subject to seller finance isn't going to make sense for everyone. And so it's just kind of important to remember that if someone's giving you a hard time, it's not your fault. It's honestly that agent's probably miserable and is having a hard time selling their home. So just kind of got to bear with them and move on to the next agent.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of this stuff is really just a numbers game, as we've said before. And I'm sure as you guys are seeing too, like, oh, this one seems like a deal. And then all of a sudden it's not, and another offer comes in. Or if it's like, oh, this looks like a deal. And then all of a sudden it's like, shoot, we couldn't perform and find a buyer on it. Or, hey, we have to let this one go. And then just like Chris, like you saw, now all of a sudden that buyer didn't perform and then we were able to get it. So the more stuff you're throwing out there, the more stuff that's actually going to stick in the long run. And it's kind of also like a personal pipeline too that you're building out as you speak with more agents, which is cool as well too. And that would be the same with the cash deals and also the creative stuff. But I'm wondering, any questions or anything from anyone or any comments? I guess we could use the last like 10 minutes here for questions other than what we already showed with specific deals.
So I have a question. So the LOI you just showed, says a copy this spreadsheet. So where we can do, can you send a link out? Or?
Yeah, so this one's actually like one we paid for. So I can't actually share it. It's I don't know how much it was. I think it was like $500 or $600 where some guy in sub 2, he built out like all the coding and stuff. So this one is an outdated one that's not too good that I was sharing, but then there's another one we recently bought that's like better, but there are some free things. I don't know though, Alex. We have to check in terms of what we can share though, right? Because are there free ones that we'd be able to share?
There's got to be someone we could
Like
offer, but there are
Yeah.
some that are specific to sub 2. So just like
We'll have to look for that. I've said that like last week and the week before, and I completely forgot. I got to make note of that. But none of them are going to be as good as this one, I think. But there are still some that are good and still get the job done totally. So we can look for like an underwriting. I'm going to make a note of that actually on my whiteboard in a set. I'll do it right now.
Yeah, because I saw it says make a copy, so I thought that you guys.
I just copied. Oh no, those are the instructions from the person who coded it and made it. So we had to make a copy of his original and then email the copy back to him, so he could like program it, I guess, to run the script. But yeah, I just made note of that, and basically like an underwriting template sheet would help you guys, I guess, just kind of look through the numbers like I did, and I'm sure that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then question in the chat, Alex, with this with the lists, I'm trying to remember, do we email those lists out, or is it sent through Discord via the ticket? I think it was emailed, right? Shared via email when someone requests a list.
it gets sent to their email, but unless I'm creating the menu list, I'm just sending it through the ticket.
Gotcha. Okay. And you requested for a list, Nydia? Because she said she didn't receive one. We also have a full-time VA now that's new, that just started a couple days ago, and he's going through training. So there could be an error there in terms of him sending it out with one of the tickets, possibly.
Yeah.
How often do you guys send out the list?
Yeah, so that's something we've kind of been trying to work on, and ideally we want to have it to you within an hour or two, but because I've been trying to train the VA, also full-time school, and then also just making sure we're pushing these contracts from getting that first signature signed to paying everything, it's been a little hectic, so just bear with us. It should not take longer than a day.
Yeah, and the other good thing is too, like why we're going to start doing some cash stuff too, is now that we have a VA who's doing full-time stuff for us, he's helping with the list pulling, updating lead sheets and things like that. So that allows us to have some more time to build out other systems now and actually start targeting some other things like cash. And the thing is with cash, if we get a deal that looks like it works for cash, we could literally pitch creative on it. So they go hand in hand, right? If someone doesn't want a creative offer, we can do cash, but of course the cash offer is going to be way, way, way lower. So usually it's the other way around where we pitch cash and then, well, shoot, let me watch what I say. We're not pitching cash with what we're doing because we're calling direct to agent low equity. But like when I used to do PPC stuff or direct to seller, we always would start with the cash offer, which is significantly low. And then 99 times out of 100, they're going to say no on that. And then we pivot into creative. And then a portion of the time they're open to that creative offer. So they go hand in hand. We could also do the creative pitch. And then, well, if there's a lot of motivation here and whatnot, what if we came in and just bought this cash if the seller's really distressed or in a certain situation? But ideally, if we're having conversations with agents and they're selling us cash offers, they're going to know that we're investors buying well below market value. And they'll just be sending us fixers where that's already known that we're going to be buying at a pretty big discount.
So sorry, this is Yolani. Hi guys.
Hey, Melanie.
We're still maintaining the pretty low 60-70% roughly percent of the like, are we still offering 60 to 70% for cash?
Yeah,
Roughly,
I would
when you're
actually
looking at
I would say lower, probably like 55 to 60. Because
Okay.
typically we're going to probably want to be selling it at like 70% minus repairs. So if
Okay.
something's a major fixer and it looks like it needs like, well, it depends on the price of the house. Say it needs like 30, 40K of work. We definitely don't want to be pitching 70% of like the listed price. We probably want to be lower than that. And it's going to vary per market too. Like in Dallas or Austin or those larger, nicer markets, those A markets, you're going to have investors buying like 70 to 75% of ARV probably minus repairs.
Okay.
Whereas like in smaller B cities like Lubbock, Texas or Waco, you're going to have investors probably at like 60 to 70, probably like closer to 65% of ARV.
Okay. Thanks.
But Alex and I are going to kind of build some stuff out here shortly to help with that before we start actually doing that. Any other questions from anyone else here before we kind of wrap things up? Who is that? Oh shoot. Going once, going twice. Anything from anyone else? Alex, you want to say any final thoughts or anything to mention?
For those that have been making calls for a couple of weeks and haven't found anything, don't give up. Just set a time that you're going to dedicate to making calls and stick to it and just stay consistent if this is something you want to start. Kind of like Jack said, even though you might not have a deal tomorrow, we literally had a deal fall in our lap with Chris. And so not one of us was really expecting that to happen, but it happened. And so it's about building out your pipeline. And if you don't see money tomorrow, as long as you're staying consistent with it, it'll start to stack up. Yeah,
very true. And a lot of these come back to like, what was it? That dockside one. That one was one where the offer didn't work. The sellers weren't interested a month ago. And then all of a sudden I get a call like 3 days ago saying they want to take our offer. And it looked like a super solid deal. And then unfortunately the agent was wrong with the numbers they told us originally. Then we saw the mortgage statement and realized that the taxes and insurance were way higher than what she told us. And it just killed the deal. But say if that wasn't the case, then that would have been a perfect one where we totally could have made a deal out of that. And, it's worth just continuing to build the pipeline out because that deal was actually sent to us by someone who told us they're like, hey, I'm not really seeing results yet after a couple of weeks. I'm going to pursue some other stuff. So it's like, that's a pipeline that's being built out. And we've had the same thing happen from other agents too. Just like that deal, Chris, we locked up a couple of days ago. That one was just planting the seed with the agent and then coming back to us. And then as we were speaking, Alex, we might want to hop on a 3-way call later today, possibly. From this agent in Tennessee. I think I was kind of telling you that story where it was that really nice looking cool home that doesn't cash flow as a long-term rental, but he might have a buyer in place for that. And then the buyer in place for that wants to sell her current house, potentially sub 2. And that could be like an interesting kind of deal, but Who
Let's do it.
knows? Yeah.
And also,
Um,
I just want to throw that out there that the more calls you have Jack and I tag team with you, the faster you're gonna see results. Please do not try to do this by yourself. I tried doing it, didn't work. As soon as I started teaming up with other people, I
yeah.
started seeing success. And if you're focused on having the whole 100% of a pie, this real estate thing probably isn't for you. I'd rather have some of a pie than none of a pie. And
Yeah.
so just I try not to be greedy. And it's gone pretty far. So I just want to throw it out there that don't worry about getting 100% of the pie on your first deal. I'm sure it'll come sooner than later, but just focus on learning the skills and learning what it really takes to acquire a good deal. And then just learn the process and just duplicate it and generate as many leads as possible. And you'll see some pretty insane results.
Yeah. Well said. Totally. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Occasionally, I mean, everyone in here isn't like that because they're, in the group and seeing the value of learning and everything and also making money and being a part of a team at the same time. But there are people I talk to where they're like, well, I want 100% of the assignment fee or something like that, where it's like, if I was just like, hey, go do this yourself, no one would know where to start. And if you feel like, if you feel like you kind of know what you're doing, then all of a sudden one thing that happens too is one of the main hiccups is like paperwork, finding buyers, things like that. Because just like finding a lead is, I don't know how many steps. It'd be cool if we actually made like a layout. Maybe I'll do that of like all the steps. I mean, it's kind of just basic things, but there's so many different steps that involve so many different parts with the wholesaling, not only cash deals, not only sub two stuff. But yeah, and teaming up with people really helps just push things along a conveyor belt. Like what we were saying, if we start doing cash deals, we have a guy that just does a lot of dispo and specifically focuses cash deals where we're basically going to give up a decent portion of the fee or whatever it would be that we could make just to conveyor belt it off to him to allow us to have time to do other things and not try to figure it out ourselves in terms of the dispo nationwide for cash stuff. So teaming up with people is super important and, exchanging value in whatever ways possible. But yeah, I appreciate those final thoughts there, Alex, and appreciate everyone for showing up here today. I think.
Can I have one more question before you?
Yeah, no worries, of course.
So does everyone get the same list, or we are calling for the same list?
No. Everyone, when you request the list, everyone gets their own list.
Okay.
Occasionally there is some overlap in the lists. It's kind of rare though, but like we're pulling new lists every week or two. And of course, some of those houses will sell, some won't, but there's not a lot of overlap. Maybe occasionally one person might get the same list as someone else, but no,
okay, so once we got the list and we finish the calling of the list, and then we request again. Is that how it works?
Correct.
Oh.
Guys, can I ask? I remember it being said that Texas doesn't allow something. I can't remember whether it was they don't do sub 2, but they only do something. I couldn't remember what it was exactly. Is there something that I have to keep in mind when calling Texas when it comes to creative financing?
Texas doesn't allow. I think I mentioned this maybe previously with in terms of wraps, like contract for deeds. Like Texas won't allow when we're doing a wrap, like a contract for deed or an agreement for sale. That's one thing I know Texas doesn't allow, and I know I mentioned that a couple times when I was talking about wraps previously. Like the downside with Texas is we don't get the tax benefits if we do a wrap because we don't have the deed anymore because we can't do a contract for deed. But that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head in terms of regulations and things that are already in place and have passed that. But I mean, you wouldn't really have to make note of that.
Okay, that's not something that I'd be worried about. Okay,
no,
that's fine. I just wasn't sure, like if like someone was going to come back at me and say, oh, this is what you offered, and it's not legal or something. I just wanted to make sure I covered that.
Yeah, no, totally. Anything else from anyone? Awesome. Okay, I think we'll call it a morning or day here wherever you're located. Appreciate you guys. Let's have a good rest of the weekend, and we